Hello everybody and welcome to SQL on the Edge. This is episode 10 and we're going to talk about SQL Server 2016 Columnstore Improvements. My name is Warner Chavez. I'm a SQL Server MCM and Microsoft Data Platform MVP and I work at Pythian. Make sure you visit us at pythian.com. So the topic of today's episode is Columnstore Improvements. The Columnstore is basically columnar storage for the data. This has become a very popular way of storing data for data warehouses, and Microsoft, Oracle, Amazon, Google, they have all made their implementations of Columnstore storage. The first release for column stores for SQL Server was in 2012. And this was a bit of a hassle in that release because the column stores were read-only, so you had to drop the index, reload the data, and then recreate the index every time you wanted to add new data to the column store. Now that was greatly improved in 2014 with the release of read-write column stores. This was called a clustered column store. And now in 2016 there's a lot of new improvements as well. Also keep in mind that column stores are not only available for SQL Server on the box, but it's also available on Azure SQL Database, where they can be used for real-time analytics or for small data marts, and they're also available on Azure SQL Data Warehouse, where you can have your full-blown, fully managed data warehouse in the cloud. Now, like I mentioned, there are many new features in 2016, like new batch mode operators, the fact that we can now have non-clustered column store indexes that are read-write on permanent tables, on in-memory tables, and these are the ones that enable new scenarios like real-time analytics, where we have a B-tree type of index that is very good performance for OLTP workloads, and at the same time we also have a column store index on that same table so that they can be used by our analytical queries to run really fast. And the improvement that we're going to check out in the demo today is also the addition of constraints into column stores. So in previous version of column stores, you had to load the data without any constraints. You couldn't create foreign keys or primary keys on the column store. So this meant that most people had to add some logic to their ETL workflows to make sure that they were not repeated the load of some data, and to make sure that the foreign keys were being respected from fact tables to their dimension tables. Well, with 2016, now that is taken care of if you create the proper primary keys and foreign keys on your fact tables that are column stores. So let's check out on the demo column store indexes in 2016 and their use of the new constraints. Let's go check it out. Okay, I'm connected right now to a SQL Server 2016 Developer Edition in the Release to Market version that came out on June 1st, 2016. I'm going to use the AdventureWorks Data Warehouse database sample that you can download online as the sample for this demo. So first thing we're going to do is, by the way, this is a new little bit of T-SQL sugar on SQL Server 2016, where we can actually do a drop table if exists, so we don't have to keep adding that, select from objects and see if a table exists before we drop it. We can just run drop table if exists. If it exists, it'll drop it. If it doesn't exist, it's just not going to do anything. And we're going to start the demo by just creating a new table based on this fact call center table that comes with AdventureWorks DW. So we can see it has an identity 11, fact call center ID integer. It has a date key that goes to a date dimension, a wage, a shift, keys for operators, and so on, as you would have on a fact record that's tracking call center activity. So we're just going to create that right now. And we can verify on Object Explorer as well that the new fact call center column store table is here. And we can actually expand on it, and we can see right now, we can see all the columns are there. And if we look at the keys, it has no keys, it has no constraints, it has no indexes, right? So the first thing we're going to do is to actually create the column store index. This is done with a create clustered column store index instruction. We have to give it a name, and we put it on this fact call center column store table. So I'm just going to run that right now. And we can see it completes without problems. So if we go in and refresh this here, we can see now we have the fact call center CCI as a clustered column store index. Okay. Now, first thing we're going to try and create is a primary key. So the nice thing, like I mentioned before, is that the primary keys are created with the exact same syntax. There's nothing special that you need to do just because it's a column store. So I can do an alter table on the column store, add the constraint pk, a primary key. Note that because I have a clustered column store, the primary key in this case has to be non-clustered. And then we just add the fact called center ID to be the primary key. So let's go in here and run the primary key creation. And that completes without problems. And now we can also refresh again. So now we can refresh this and we can see that we have the two indexes now, the clustered column store and the primary key as a unique non-clustered index as well. Now the other constraint that we can add is the foreign key as well. So in here we can see we have an alter table again, same syntax, to the column store with check, add a constraint on the foreign key. We have the foreign key name here, and we want to refer for the date key going into the dimension date on the date key as well. So basically it's just a foreign key to make sure that all the dates that we are using in the fact table have a valid detailed row on the dimension date table. So we can run that one as well. That one completes as well, and we can go back. And now we can refresh this again, and if I go to keys, you can see I have my primary key and I have my foreign key as well, both defined on the column store table. So let's test out the behavior now that we have all these constraints on the table. So first thing, we're going to try it to run just a regular insert to the column store, just one record, and let's run that. And first thing we're going to hit is that we are not allowed to insert an explicit value at the identity column. So first thing that is not allowed to do out of integrity is to just put a value there when we have a column that is supposed to be an identity 1-1. So let's try to see. Let's allow inserts into the identity. I set that on, and let's run the insert again. So this time it will work because the table is empty, so now we have a value of 1. But what happens if we try to insert the same value again? Now we have our violation of primary key constraint. As we would have expected, the duplicate key value is simply the number 1. And now what about the foreign key? Well, in this case I'm going to try and insert a record that is in the future, 2017 and 2017, but here this field, the date key, is the one that is being protected by the foreign key. So I can try to run this again, and as you guys can see, I get here an error that we expect is that the conflict occurs on dim date column date key because it's conflicting with the foreign key constraint, because that date is in the future and it has not been put into the date dimension table yet. Okay, so I hope you got a good overview in the demo of the new capability of column stores in 2016 to have primary keys, to have foreign keys. As you took a look, it's pretty much the same experience as working with any other table, so there's not a new syntax or anything like that. It's the same syntax that you would use to create primary keys or to create foreign keys on a regular table. The only difference is that now it's on a column store table. So the experience is pretty much the same, and this should be able to help a lot of people adopt column stores, because then the workflows and ETLs can get simpler. And if you had already made some of those tweaks into your ETL workflow, then you might want to explore and see if you want to take advantage of the new native capabilities in SQL 2016 column stores. Alright, so I hope you got a good overview of 2016 column stores. Until next episode, thanks for watching.